In this video, I'm going to be combining my two favorite fantasy series, Warhammer 40,000 and politics as a concept. Anarcho-capitalism. We may as well be talking about orcs and elves here. So there is no singular ideology that truly encompasses any one Warhammer faction, but we're gonna look at the Warhammer factions as patchworks of different real-world ideologies, and I made this little chart here to show how all the ideologies are connected and what the factions have in common with each other. So let's start with the Imperium of Man. These are the main characters in the setting. The Imperium was originally created by a Reddit atheist who wanted to basically enforce atheism. So this is closest to an ideology called state atheism. You can look at stuff like Russia, like Soviet Russia, for example, during their communist era as being state atheist. Technically, the Nazi Party was also state atheist, although you could say that they used religious rhetoric to appeal to a certain class of people, even though they didn't actually believe in any religious values, which is, I'm just glad that that has never happened again. So this Reddit atheist then basically dies and his corpse gets put on the throne, and that corpse on the throne becomes the God Emperor of humanity, even though he's basically dead, which is a necrocracy. This is when a dead person rules. You can maybe call it a necro-monarchy if you are also a monarch, which he kind of is in this case. He's the emperor. And of course, the best known example of this system of government is North Korea, where Kim Il-sung is dead, but still technically the ruler of North Korea. Blind worship for a head of state that's decaying in front of our very eyes. I'm sure glad that this is unrelated to current events. And then of course we have imperialism, because it's the Imperium of Man, and they do imperialism. Although this relates better to a fake ideology called galactic imperialism, which is just imperialism applied to the entire galaxy, which of course perfectly sums up what the Imperium of Man is trying to do. They're trying to take over the galaxy. So, you know, they're authoritarian and they're xenophobic, but they're also human nationalists. I forgot to add this to the map. I'm going to do that now. With human nationalism, the idea is we're surrounded by so many xenos scum that we need to all get together, and it doesn't matter if you're gay, because we're getting eaten by Tyranids or whatever. Unless, of course, you're gay in a way which makes the literal god of hedonism appear and suck your soul out of your body and then summon a demon that kills everybody. So there's some nuance. Now, the Imperium is human nationalist in theory, but you may notice that all these guys are crackers. Every single one. Maybe there's like 2 black characters, and before you say the salamanders, this guy is wearing black. This is blackface. This is his physiognomy is white. He just has black skin. So the Imperium of Man is basically a very inefficiently run clerical fascist society. Strong authoritarian rule combined with, you know, a church or an ecclesiarchy in this case that has a lot of power, and that power is used to enforce customs from the religion. In this case, the religion is the guy, the Reddit atheist, is actually God, and he was God, and so we worship him. Another aspect of the Imperium of Man is religious transhumanism, which is very ironic. You know, the Reddit atheist is seething, but he's too dead to do anything about it. And religious transhumanism worships the skeleton as the Omnissiah, which is basically the tech god that they are trying to bring about with their technological advances. And then this leads us into a subcategory of the Imperium of Man called the Adeptus Mechanicus. They're best represented by the ideology of transhumanism, because look at these motherfuckers. This is what you transhumanists want. You want to be looking like this guy? Fine. Go ahead. See what happens. Yes, I would like more mechadendrites, please. Statements uttered by the utterly deranged. Okay, new faction. We're going to talk about the Necrons. So the Necrons connect to the Imperium of Man via necrocracy because they are all dead as well. So the Necrons are basically Terminator robots in the space. That's all you really need to know. The Necrons are best defined by the ideology of posthumanism, which goes even further than transhuman. So Necrons have no biological matter left. They're completely post-biological. And now their whole quest is trying to get back into the flesh. So really goes to show something. And politically, they have sort of a feudal society, which is to say there's lots of dynasties, but they're always infighting with each other. There's a king character, the Silent King. He's kind of wandering around. He's not really the king of all the Necrons, though, so it's more of like a constant power struggle between all the kingdoms. But first, a word from our sponsor. The chair I'm sitting on in this video. Look at this stupid non-ergonomic chair I was sitting in. Can you believe I was spending so much of my life on that stupid chair when I could be spending my life on this not stupid chair? And it's got a footrest. So I spend a lot of my time sitting. I spend a lot of my time sitting on a chair, and I think to myself, the problem here is not that we've constructed a world where we spend 16 hours a day sitting and looking at computer screens, slowly feeding more and more of ourselves into the machine. And basically, you know, what we dream of is just getting slightly better cages to exist in. We want like gold chains. We want our gold prisoner chains. So that's not the problem, because the problem is that my chair wasn't good enough. I'm gonna look at the screen a lot more, I think. You can pick between foam or mesh. Obviously, I got the mesh one. I got the mesh one here. I will look at the screen more in comfort. I will rearrange zeros and ones. I will spend the rest of my life rearranging zeros and ones. And then the number in my bank account will increase. I don't know how this happens. It comes with a 30-day return policy and a 10-year warranty. Use my exclusive code C750 and save $50 off this order. 50 bucks. There's all kinds of ways to adjust this chair. The Necrons are one of the oldest races, and they sort of cling to their past, which makes them aligned with traditionalism as a concept. And traditionalism brings us to the Eldar. And they have a very, like, duties-based way of life, where everybody kind of, like, picks a role based off of responsibility, and their souls got eaten up by the hedonism god like 1 billion years ago. So they're all paranoid about that, and they raise everybody to make sure that they don't fall into chaos. And this brings us to technocracy, which is where the people who are best equipped and the most intellectual are in charge of things, which is also the case for the Eldar. The Eldar are eco-fascist because they are racial supremacists. They think that the Eldar are the best race and the most in tune with nature. And their civilizations are always in harmony with the environment, and their ships have lush nature all over them. And they use that superiority conflicts to justify why they are killing the other races. They are aristocratic because they make a big deal about their bloodline. Moving on to the Dark Eldar, they are still worshipping the hedonism god and torturing people and drinking their blood and stuff, doing all kinds of depraved things. I put them as a narco-aristocracy because they're a lot more disorganized. Technically, they have aristocratic rulers like you do everywhere else, but like they're so focused on individual freedom and hedonism, but they still technically have a leader. And then we have a narco-egoism. I think this probably sums them up the best. Egoism basically says, morality's fake and I can do whatever is in my best interest. In the case of the Dark Eldar, it is in their best interest to torture and kill and do the unspeakable things because otherwise the god of hedonism will take their souls. So moving down from anarcho-egoism, we have the Orks, who I also have marked as anarcho-egoists. The Orks are probably the most generally anarchist of the tribes. I put Orks down as being explicitly tribalist, that's for sure. I mean, there's literally like a bunch of Ork tribes, and they're all sort of different in different ways. But the tribes aren't really racial. Like, if you want to join the fast guy Ork tribe, all you have to do is just like be really fast and fit in with the other fast orcs, and then you get to be a fast orc guy. Which kind of makes me think that it's like anarcho-communism. Now, bear with me. So the orcs have money, but the money is just their teeth, and they can knock out someone else's teeth, and so this is kind of how anarcho-communism sort of works. There's no accruing of capital, and you know, there's different groups, sure, but you can sort of join whatever group you want. And there aren't any unjust hierarchies. Every hierarchy that orcs have is just, because if you're a bigger and stronger orc, then you justifiably beat up the smaller orc and take his position. This is also called a craterocracy. A craterocracy is when the strongest person rules, and this perfectly describes the orcs. Kind of want to call them anarcho-primitivist, too, just based off of vibes, but you know, they use all kinds of tech. So, and I also put down ocularchy here, which is mob rule, which is whatever the mob wills, whether it's, you know, something unspeakable like murder or other things. That's what happens because that's what the majority of people want. It's mob rule. And so if there's like a WOG going on, which is one war chief wants to go and attack a planet, all the orcs that are following that chief are doing it because they really want to, you know? It's a very consensual system. If you don't want to, you can try to beat that orc up, you can try to kill him, and if he kills you, then that's just how it goes. And moving down from craterocracy, we have chaos, the forces of chaos. Craterocracy connects with chaos because obviously in chaos warbands, it's the most ruthless, evil, strongest guy that rises to the top. There's 4 chaos factions, we're not going to go into every single one of them. But generally, you can see it as the ideology of cultism, very reminiscent of Satanism, where, you know, you sell your soul for dark powers, and anarcho-nihilism, which is that, you know, morality is dumb and, you know, do whatever you want. The forces of chaos are also very anarchist in a lot of ways, because the god of mankind sort of represents order, like pure order, and keeping people together by any means necessary, and the chaos is like, I want to do whatever I want, I don't care. maybe I want to do these hedonistic pleasures. Oh, I summoned a demon, and the demon is doing bad things to a lot of people. So the Eldar connect with the Tau in the sense that the Tau also have a technocracy. The Tau technocracy is a lot more like a nucrocracy, though. So a nucrocracy is this idea based off the philosopher king model. You know that guy, Plato? Ever hear about him, Plato? He basically says that, the wisest should rule. It's very much like Confucianism. And then this brings us to the Tau caste system. So despite being, kind of the most egalitarian of like the normal factions, they're like extremely rigid and hierarchical, just like everybody else. The only difference is the people on the top of the caste are like, actively trying to look out for the people on the bottom of the caste, or at least so they say. But the main ideology of the Tau is this concept called the greater good, which is basically a philosophy of communitarianism, caring about other people and trying to extend that care for other people to the rest of the galaxy. And they are kind of the most tolerant and liberal of all of the factions. They'll accept different beliefs underneath them as long as you're like out for the greater good. Which brings us to our final faction, the Tyranids, which I've only picked one philosophy for because this is the easiest one. Hive mind communalism. Look at a political compass. See the off left. Off left is all about coming together forcefully. The Tyranids are a bunch of space bugs that exist under one singular hive mind. Concentration of power in one unit for maximum control and equality over everybody. So it's basically the Tyranids are like one guy. And so that's off compass, off left. It's the Borg. They want to eat you, they want to assimilate your biomass, and they want to make your biomass a part of them. And so hive mind collectivism is an off-compass, authoritarian left-wing ideology that basically says we should all merge into a singular being. It's kind of like the singularity, but in this case, the singularity is made of meat instead of electronics. I kind of put everything together on a political compass here. The Necrons are the most ancient and wise, kind of off-right. The Eldar, the Tau, and the Tyranids are all off-left. The Imperium of Man is just pretty much where the fascists would generally go. Orks are libertarian, and the Dark Eldar are libertarian, but kind of in different ways. And for extra fun, I put all the Chaos Demon deities on the political compass. So Khorne, the god of war, is off-left. Tzeentch, the god of knowledge, is off-right. Nurgle, the god of poison and decay, is lib-left. And Slanesh, the god of hedonism, is lib-right. Now, this doesn't actually track. But the colors matched. I noticed the colors matched, so I put the colors together. This doesn't mean anything. Actually, none of this meant anything. Have you noticed that there's like all this shit going on in the world? Like a bunch. Like I'm getting motion sick from the amount of things that are happening. And so I sort of try to retreat into fantasy to avoid it. I sort of try to retreat into fantasy, but then my brain keeps making lateral connections and relating the fantasy elements to the real world because I'm schizophrenic. And I can't stop the lateral connections from happening. So I hope you enjoyed the slop content. I made some slop content here, so I hope I made this video. I thought maybe people would click on it, maybe people would watch it, maybe I'd get views on this YouTube channel and on this video. So that's why I made this video. So if this video exists now, so if you like the video, make sure to if the video exists, and so that's why I made this video. I made some slop about some topics, and I combined some fantasy to avoid thinking about current events.